Today we will see how we can use Docker or how we can Dockerize a basic Node.js application. To start with, I have already set up a repository. I will link it in the description below, and we'll go from there. So first, clone this repository if you don't have already have a running Node.js application. So let's just see how the application looks like. This is a very basic application built with Express. It has several routes, one get route, one post route, very simple stuff. And if you run this application, I can just run yarn dev and it should get up and running. And after it's successfully connected, we can use curl to test the endpoint. So we can see the basic endpoint is a get path for the default path, and it should return us hello world. Let's see if it works. And yeah, sure enough, you can see that if we hit this endpoint, it greets us with hello world. So this is the very basic application setup, and pretty much all Node.js application is built in this way. Typically you have a Node.js application, and after you build, for example, if I build this application, I will say that an additional directory will be created here named dist, and it will have an entry file that you will specify in your tsconfig.json file. I have specified that the build folder will be named dist. So that's the run through for this specific Node.js application. Nothing special here. Let's see how we can use Docker with this application. So first thing that you have to do is inside your root directory you have to create a file called Dockerfile, and open that Dockerfile. Let me just run you through how this Dockerfile file is built and what are the options. First, you have to choose a base image. So what the base image is, the platform that your application will run on. You can see that I have commented out a line, so it can be either this one or this one. So what are these? So if I choose Node 16, so it will come with all the necessary features of Node.js version 16. But for most of the application, we don't need all of the features of Node.js 16. So there is some trimmed down versions which are called Alpine images. So you can use this Alpine image for speedy development and to reduce the size of your image. So basically the first line in your Dockerfile will be your base image, and your rest of the application will run on this base image. If whenever I will run the Docker container or build the Docker container, Docker will first see if this image is available in your local repository. If it's available, it will just use it. If it's not available, it will go to Docker Hub and download this image. So for a simplicity purpose, I will be using this Alpine image, and LTS means latest. So that's the first line. The second line, you will set up a work directory. So basically you don't have a base directory to work from, and this is where you set that up. User source app. I have set it as user source app. You can set it as any way. That's up to you. The third step is you have to copy the package.json file, and you will see that I have used star, which means it will copy two files: the package.json file, which contains our dependencies, and another one is package lock.json file. Okay, so it will copy these two files from our project into our work directory. So whenever I am just specifying // it is pointing to that work directory. So this file will go into this user source app folder basically. So now we only have the package.json file inside our work directory. Now we need to install the dependencies, right? Because we need these node modules. And to do that, you can see I have again commented out an alternative line. So if you run npm install, you will install all the dependencies just like we do in our development environment. But for production, you can trim it down to remove the unnecessary packages to keep the size smaller. So this option is for production level images. We will not use this for now. So after we install our dependencies, the next step is to copy our application code. So until this point we just copied this package.json file, but now we will copy everything else from our directory into our work directory, and this is very easy. We just specify it using two dots. Then we have to expose a port from inside the Docker container, because by default Docker is very secure. Docker images and containers are secure, so they don't expose any port directly. You have to expose one yourself. If we go to our index.ts file, we will see that we are using this port 3000 to serve our application. So if you want to access that application, you have to expose this port 3000. There are some other options as well. You can expose a different port on the Docker container and map that with the application port, but we will not go into that for now. We are just exposing the default port that our application is using. Then we will run npm build. Npm build will package our application and create a dist folder that I showed you earlier. And the final stage is we will run a cmd command. Cmd means is command, and I will run a command with node dist /index.js. You will notice inside this dist file we have our entry file, which is a JS file. We can't run TS files directly, so we'll just run that. And that is it. That is your Docker file, and it will work with pretty much 90% of the Node.js applications. What you might need to do is, if you have specified a separate folder for your build, maybe you have used build instead of dist, then you have to change here. If you have a separate port, you have to change this command right here. Otherwise, most of the cases, most Node.js application should work with this particular Docker file. Now let's see it in action. So the first step in Docker, in using Docker, is we have to build the image, right? So how do we do it? I have written down some commands here. So this is our build command. If you run it, it will build. Let's just see what is going on here. So we are running Docker build. We are taking the current application folder, so it will go there and look for a particular Docker file, and we are tagging it so that we can find it later. We are tagging it as express TypeScript Docker. You can see that our Docker file is already built. And if you notice here, some of the stages are cached because I have run this particular command before. So first time it will take a good amount of time, but from the second run it will be very easy. Now let's see if we can find our image. If you run docker image ls, you will see that we have our express TypeScript Docker, we have our image ID, and we have our tag latest. As we didn't tag it, so it will just take the latest tag. So now we have our Docker image, but now we need to run it inside a container, right? For that we can use this particular command, docker run. Let's first see what is going on here. So we will run docker run, then we are mapping the port. This is our container port, this is our application port. This is what I was talking about previously. So inside our Docker file we exposed 3000, right? So if we have exposed, let's say 4000, then we needed to make it 4000, something like this. So it would be mapped with 4000. So the first is the container port and the second is our application port. So what it means is we will map our application port 3000 to our container port 3000. -d means we will run it in a detached mode, so we will not see the logs coming in. And then this is our image name and image tag. So let's try to run it and see. Let's first stop this one and make sure that our curl command doesn't work. It doesn't have anything, right? Okay. Now we have run our Docker container and everything went well, I hope. Let's see if we can get anything from inside the container, and yes, sure enough, you can see that we can see this message, hello world. So that's about it. That is how you can use Docker for your Node.js application. And yeah, there are some other steps as well. I will talk, we can use Docker for local development. I will talk it in our next video. Thank you so much.